The Imperial Tower stood against the crimson sky like a shard of obsidian. Inside its highest chamber, Empress Thyra of the Draconis sovereignty paced before the vast windows. Her emerald scales caught the dying light, each one a testament to the genetic perfection her people valued above all else. Outside her door, advisors whispered. They always whispered now. 3 months had passed since her clutch hatched. 3 months since her world crumbled. Thyra forced herself to walk toward the eastern wing, toward the chambers she visited less each day. The nursery corridor felt longer every time. Colder. The guards bowed as she approached, their expressions carefully neutral. Everyone had mastered that look when speaking of her offspring. She paused at the doorway. Inside, 3 small forms huddled together on the warming stones, but not in the sunlight. Never in the sunlight. Their scales, pure white like fresh snow, made them sensitive to the harsh rays that other dragonlings basked in freely. Saren, her firstborn daughter, noticed her first. The hatchling's silver eyes met Thyra's for just a heartbeat before turning away. That small rejection cut deeper than any battle wound Thyra had ever received. "Honored mother," Saren said, her voice carrying the formal distance of a courtier rather than a child. "Do you require something from us?" Thyra's throat tightened. When had her own daughter started speaking to her like a stranger? Myron, the middle child and only son, shifted his wings nervously. Gold markings traced patterns across his white scales, beautiful and damning. In any other hatchling, those marks would have been celebrated. On him, they only highlighted his difference. Little Vex said nothing. The youngest rarely spoke at all anymore. She simply watched with those enormous silver eyes, taking in everything and offering nothing back. "I came to see how you fare," Thyra managed. "We are adequate," Saren replied. "Always we, never I." The eldest had appointed herself guardian of her siblings, building walls even their mother could not breach. Before Thyra could respond, her chief advisor Dracos appeared at her shoulder. His perfect bronze scales gleamed with health and strength. "Your Majesty, the Security Council requires your immediate attention. A human vessel has requested emergency landing clearance." Thyra felt relief and shame in equal measure. "I will return," she told her hatchlings, knowing the promise rang hollow. The security chamber buzzed with activity. Thyra settled into her command throne as reports flooded in. "The human ship suffered catastrophic engine failure," Dracos explained. "They need 3 days for repairs. Standard protocol suggests the eastern landing zone." "Humans," another advisor scoffed. "Fragile creatures. Their technology fails constantly." Thyra nodded absently. "Grant them clearance. Assign guards to monitor them. They are not to enter palace grounds." "Understood. One detail, Your Majesty. The ship's engineer travels with a young offspring. A female child of approximately 7 solar cycles." Something stirred in Thyra's chest. Human parents brought their young everywhere, treated them as treasures rather than burdens. She had seen it in diplomatic feeds and found it incomprehensible. "The restrictions remain," she said firmly. That night, sleep eluded Thyra. She stood on her balcony watching the human ship settle into the eastern zone like a tired bird. Somewhere in that vessel, a human child slept peacefully beside her parent, wanted and valued. Thyra thought of her own hatchlings, alone in their shadowed nursery. When had she last held them? When had she last told them they mattered? The answer shamed her. Dawn came too quickly. Thyra dressed in her formal armor and prepared for another day of ruling, of pretending her personal life was not falling apart. But as she passed the nursery, she heard something that made her stop. Laughter. Actual, genuine laughter from inside. Thyra pressed against the wall, listening. Saren was telling a story, her voice animated in a way Thyra had never heard. Myron added details, his usual nervousness replaced by excitement. Even Vex made small sounds of delight. They were happy. Without her, Thyra fled before the tears could fall. Empresses did not cry. Meanwhile, in the eastern landing zone, 7-year-old Rosie pressed her nose against the ship's window. The planet outside looked like something from her storybooks. Purple grass, crimson sky, and that massive palace that seemed to grow straight from the mountains. "Rosie, stay close to the ship while I work," her father Owen said for the 5th time that morning. "This is not Earth. The rules are different here." "I know, Papa," Rosie replied, but her attention remained fixed on the exotic landscape. Owen was a brilliant engineer, but he worried too much. Rosie could take care of herself. The moment Owen descended into the engine compartment, Rosie slipped outside. The air smelled like copper and flowers. In the distance, the palace gleamed like a jewel. Between the landing zone and that magnificent structure lay gardens more beautiful than anything Rosie had ever imagined. She found the gap in the garden wall almost immediately. It was small, child-sized, perfect. Rosie squeezed through and gasped at the wonderland beyond. Crystal fountains, flowering vines as thick as trees, and paths that wound through grottos and pools. Then she heard it, a sound like birds crying lonely and lost. Rosie followed it to a hidden alcove behind a waterfall. The blue glow from the water cast strange shadows on the walls. That was where she found them. 3 creatures huddled in the shadows, each about the size of a large wolf. They had scales that gleamed white as pearls, wings folded against their bodies and eyes like molten silver. They were the most magical things Rosie had ever seen. "Hello," she whispered. All 3 heads snapped toward her. The largest one spread her wings protectively over the others. They were afraid of her. The idea seemed silly. "I'm Rosie," she said, sitting down cross-legged to make herself smaller and less scary. "What are your names?" The creatures stared at her in silence. Then the largest one spoke, her voice soft and careful. "I am Saren. These are my siblings, Mirren and Vex. You should not be here, human child. If you are discovered, there will be consequences." "I won't tell if you won't," Rosie said with a grin. "Want to be friends?" The 3 white-scaled dragonlings stared at Rosie as if she had spoken in an alien language. Perhaps in a way she had. The word friends seemed to hang in the air between them like something precious and fragile. "Friends," Myron repeated slowly, his gold-marked scales catching the blue light from the waterfall. "No one has ever offered to be our friend before." Rosie frowned. That seemed impossible. These creatures were beautiful and obviously smart. How could they not have friends? "Well, I'm offering now," she said firmly. She pulled off her backpack and opened it. "Are you hungry?" "I have snacks." "Good friends share snacks." She laid out her lunch on the stone floor. A sandwich her father had made that morning. Dried fruit, crackers with cheese, and a juice pouch. It was not much, but it was everything she had. The 3 dragonlings looked at the food like it was treasure. Saren reached forward carefully as if expecting Rosie to snatch it away at the last moment. When Rosie just smiled and pushed the sandwich closer, Saren took a small piece with trembling claws. "It's safe," Saren whispered to her siblings. "She means it." Soon all 4 of them were sitting in a circle sharing the meal. Rosie learned that they were children of the Empress herself. She learned that they could not go into direct sunlight without pain. She learned that they loved music but had no one to sing with them. She learned that their mother was important and busy and that they tried very hard not to be a bother. "But you're her kids," Rosie said, confused. "Kids are supposed to bother their parents sometimes. That's like the rule." "Not here," Vex said softly. It was the first time the youngest had spoken. "Here we are supposed to be perfect. We are supposed to have the right color scales. We are supposed to make our mother proud." "But you can't help what color your scales are," Rosie protested. "That's just how you were born. And your scales are beautiful. They look like moonlight and stars in winter morning." Saren made a sound between a laugh and a sob. "You truly believe that?" "I know that," Rosie corrected. "Beautiful is not just outside. It's inside too. You're kind and smart and brave. That makes you beautiful." Myron started crying. Big silver tears rolled down his white snout. Vex pressed against him and Saren wrapped her wings around both of them. Rosie crawled into the huddle and hugged all 3 at once. "You're not alone anymore," she whispered. "You have me now. And I'm a really good friend. I promise." High above in the palace tower, Empress Thyra stood at her window with a viewing scope. She had come to ensure the human child had not caused trouble. Instead, she witnessed something that shattered her carefully built walls. Her children were laughing. Really, truly laughing. They were playing a game with the human child, taking turns hiding and seeking among the grotto stones. Saren's wings were spread in joy rather than protection. Myron was chattering excitedly, his nervousness forgotten. Even Vex was smiling, actually smiling. Thyra watched as Rosie braided flowers into Vex's crest scales, making a crown. She watched as Mirren showed Rosie how to skip stones across the pool. She watched as Saren taught Rosie a dragon song, their voices blending in harmony. She watched her children be children, perhaps for the first time in their lives. The viewing scope slipped from Thyra's claws and clattered on the floor. She did not pick it up. She could not move, could not breathe. What had she done? What had she allowed to happen? A human child, a supposed inferior being from a weak species, had given her hatchlings something in one morning that Thyra had failed to provide in 3 months. Acceptance, joy, love without conditions. Your Majesty? Dracos appeared at her door. The council is ready for the afternoon session. Cancel it, Thyra heard herself say. But Your Majesty, we have critical matters to discuss. The issue of your offspring cannot be delayed further. Several noble families are demanding action. What action? Thyra turned to face him, and something in her expression made the advisor step back. There are facilities on the outer colonies, Draco said carefully. Places where they could live away from scrutiny. It would protect your position, your legacy. My legacy, Thyra repeated. The words tasted like ash. Tell me, Dracos. What legacy am I building by hiding my own children? A legacy of strength, Your Majesty. Of maintaining the genetic standards that have made our people great. Thyra looked back toward the gardens. In the distance, she could see 4 small figures still playing together. I need to walk, she said. Alone. She did not wait for his response. The gardens seemed different as Thyra moved through them. She had walked these paths 1,000 times, but now she noticed things she had missed. The way the light fell through the leaves, the sound of water over stones, the small places where someone young might hide and play. She followed the sound of laughter to the hidden grotto. Owen had been searching for 20 minutes when he finally tracked Rosie's footprints to the garden wall. His daughter was brilliant and curious and completely incapable of following simple safety instructions. He squeezed through the gap and found himself in an imperial garden. Wonderful. Trespassing on the first day. Rosie was going to get them both arrested. Then he saw her in the grotto with 3 white-scaled dragonlings, and everything suddenly made sense. His daughter had found someone who needed a friend, and nothing would have stopped her from offering that friendship. A shadow fell across the entrance. Owen turned to find himself face to face with Empress Thyra herself. She was taller than any dragon he had seen, her emerald scales gleaming with power. Her claws could tear through metal. Her presence radiated authority, but her eyes were fixed on the children in the grotto with an expression Owen recognized. He had seen it in his own mirror after his wife died, when he realized he was raising Rosie alone and terrified he would fail her. It was the look of a parent who suddenly understood they had made a terrible mistake. I assume the small human belongs to you, Thyra said. Her voice was controlled, but Owen heard the tremor underneath. That's Rosie, yes, Owen replied. I apologize if she has caused any trouble. She has a gift for finding adventure. She has found my children, Thyra said. My defective children who bring shame to my bloodline. The words came out automatic, rehearsed. Owen felt anger flash hot in his chest. With respect, Your Majesty, he said, keeping his voice level through pure force of will. There is no such thing as a defective child. Thyra's head snapped toward him. Her eyes were dangerous. You dare lecture me about my own offspring? I dare speak truth, Owen said. And the truth is that your children are perfect exactly as they are. Different does not mean defective. You know nothing of our culture, Thyra said. Albinism is a sign of genetic weakness. It brings dishonor to the entire bloodline. Then your culture is wrong, Owen said simply. The Empress looked like she might have him executed on the spot, but Owen had learned from his late wife that some truths needed to be spoken, no matter the cost. On Earth, Owen continued, we judge societies by how they treat their most vulnerable, not their strongest, not their most perfect, their most vulnerable. Because that is where true character shows itself. Humans are weak, Thyra countered. You have no natural armor, no weapons, no genetic advantages. You barely survive on your own world. You're absolutely right, Owen agreed. Humans are physically weak compared to most species. My daughter could be injured by things that would not bother your children at all. But we learned something important from being weak. We learned that strength is not just physical. Real strength is protecting those we love, even when it is difficult, especially when it is difficult. Thyra stared at the human engineer. His species was considered barely civilized by Draconis standards. They had no scales, no claws, no natural defenses. Yet this fragile creature stood before an empress and spoke of strength as if he understood it better than she did. Perhaps he did. How do you do it? Thyra asked quietly. How do you love so easily? It's not easy, Owen said. Love never is. My wife died when Rosie was 3. I was terrified I would fail her. Some days I still am. But I learned that being a parent is not about being perfect. It's about showing up. It's about letting your child know that no matter what, they matter. They are valued. They are loved. In the grotto, Rosie was teaching the Dragonlings a clapping game. Their laughter echoed off the stone walls. Thyra realized she had never heard her children laugh like that. Free and unguarded and completely happy. They have never sounded so joyful, Thyra admitted. I did not know they could be. All children can be joyful when they feel safe, Owen said gently. When they know they are accepted for who they are. I do love them, Thyra said, and her voice cracked. But every time I look at them, I see my failure. I see my weakness reflected in their scales. The court whispers. The noble families question my fitness to rule. How can I lead an empire if I cannot produce proper heirs? You are not seeing them at all, Owen said. You are seeing your own fears. When you truly look at them, you will see 3 remarkable young beings who need their mother. Before Thyra could respond, footsteps echoed through the garden. Dracos appeared with 4 council members, their expressions grave. Your Majesty, Dracos said, we cannot wait any longer. The council has made a decision regarding your offspring. Thyra felt ice form in her chest. What decision? For the good of the Empire, the hatchlings must be relocated to the outer colonies. The transport has been arranged for tomorrow at dawn. This is not negotiable. In the grotto, the children had gone silent. They had heard every word. You cannot take them, Thyra said, but her voice lacked conviction. She had been preparing for this moment, had known it was coming. Part of her had even welcomed it as a solution to an impossible problem. Honored mother. Saren's voice cut through the garden. The eldest dragonling stepped out of the grotto, her white scales gleaming in the fading light. Myron and Vex followed, with Rosie walking between them. We understand, Saren continued, her young voice steady. We have always known we were a burden to you. We release you from your obligations. No, Rosie said fiercely. She moved to stand in front of the 3 dragonlings, her small human form a ridiculous shield. You cannot send them away. They are children. They need their mother. The human child does not understand our ways, Dracos said dismissively. Maybe your ways are wrong, Rosie shot back. Maybe you are also worried about being perfect that you forgot how to be good. Rosie, Owen said gently, but his daughter shook her head. No, Papa. This is important. She turned to Thyra. Do you know what Saren told me today? She said she wishes she had never been born, because then you would not be ashamed. Do you understand how sad that is? She wishes she did not exist. Thyra felt something break inside her chest. She looked at Saren, really looked at her eldest daughter for the first time in months, saw the way the young dragonling held herself with dignity despite her pain, saw the protective way she watched over her siblings, saw the strength it took to release a mother who had already let her go. Is that true? Thyra asked. Do you wish you had never hatched? Saren's silver eyes met hers. I wish we could have been what you needed us to be. I am sorry we failed you, honored mother. The formal title was a blade between them. Not mother or mama, but honored mother, the phrase used for distant relatives or legal guardians. Thyra looked at Mirren, who stood with his wings half spread, trying to appear brave while tears streamed down his snout. She looked at little Vex, who had pressed herself against Rosie's legs, seeking comfort from a stranger because she had learned not to seek it from family. She looked at her children and finally saw them, not as reflections of her failure, not as genetic mistakes, not as political liabilities. She saw 3 young beings who had done nothing wrong except be born different, who had spent their short lives trying to be invisible so they would not disappoint her further, who had built walls around their hearts because they learned too early that their mother's love was conditional. She saw what she had done to them, and it broke her. No, Thyra said. The word came out raw and fierce. No, they are not leaving. Your Majesty, Dracos began. I said no. Thyra's voice cracked like thunder through the garden. She moved past Owen and Rosie and knelt before her children. She made herself small, made herself vulnerable, lowered her great head until she was at their level. I am the one who should apologize, she said. I am the one who failed, not you. Never you. Saren took a step back, confusion written across her young face. But we are defective. Our scales... Your scales are beautiful, Thyra interrupted. Like starlight. Like the ice caps of the northern mountains. Like pearls from the deepest oceans. I was too blind to see it. She reached out slowly, giving them time to pull away. When they did not, she touched Saren's crest gently. The eldest hatchling made a sound between a gasp and a sob. I have been a terrible mother, Thyra continued, tears streaming freely now. I let my fear and pride blind me to what mattered. I let the opinions of others matter more than your happiness. I let you believe you were unwanted when the truth is you are the most precious things in my world. You do not mean it, Mirren whispered. You are only saying this because of the human child. Because she shamed you. She opened my eyes, Thyra corrected. A 7-year-old human child understood in one morning what I refused to see for 3 months. That you are worthy of love. That you deserve joy. That being different makes you unique, not defective. She spread her wings wide and gathered all 3 hatchlings close. They resisted at first, their bodies stiff with disbelief. But slowly, tentatively, they leaned into her embrace. I love you, Thyra said. I love you, Saren, for your strength and your fierce protection of your siblings. I love you, Myron, for your kind heart and your artist soul. I love you, Vex, for your quiet wisdom and your gentle spirit. I love you not despite your differences, but including them. I love you because you are mine and you are perfect exactly as you are. Vex broke first. The youngest hatchling buried her face against Thyra's chest and wept. Then Mirren collapsed into the embrace, his whole body shaking. Saren held out the longest, her walls built highest. But when Thyra whispered, "Please, my daughter, let me be your mother," even those walls crumbled. The garden filled with the sound of a family healing. Dracos shifted uncomfortably. Your Majesty, the Council's decision is overruled, Thyra said without looking up. By my authority as Empress. My children stay with me. Anyone who has a problem with that can challenge me in formal combat. The advisors exchanged glances. No one was foolish enough to challenge Thyra in combat. Furthermore, Thyra continued, I am declaring a new law. Albinism will no longer be classified as a genetic defect, but as a rare and valued trait. My children will be presented to the court at the next gathering. They will take their rightful place as heirs to the throne. Any family that objects can remove themselves from court permanently. Your Majesty, Draco said carefully, this will cause upheaval. Many will resist. Let them resist, Thyra said. I am done letting fear guide my decisions. I am done teaching my children that they must hide who they are to be acceptable. Let the Empire see that true strength is not about appearance. It is about character. She looked at Owen and Rosie. A human child taught me this. A species we consider weak showed us what real power looks like. Perhaps it is time we learned from those we have dismissed. Rosie beamed. Owen put his hand on his daughter's shoulder, pride evident in his expression. Can Rosie visit us? Vex asked shyly. While her ship is being repaired? Rosie can visit whenever she likes, Thyra said. She met Owen's eyes. If her father permits. I think that would be wonderful, Owen said. That evening, Thyra hosted dinner in the royal gardens. Not in the formal dining hall, but outside under the stars where her children could be comfortable. She sat with Saren, Myron, and Vex, learning about their interests, their dreams, their fears. She listened to their stories and shared her own. Rosie and Owen joined them, the human child chattering about Earth and space travel and all the adventures she wanted to have. The dragonlings listened with wide eyes, asking questions, laughing at Rosie's dramatic retellings. As the twin moons rose over the palace, Thyra looked at her family. Her real family, not the perfect image she had tried to force them into. They were beautiful and strange and absolutely perfect. Saren caught her looking and smiled. Not the careful, formal smile of a child trying to please. A real smile, warm and genuine. Thank you, Mother, Saren said softly. Just Mother this time. Thyra's heart swelled. Thank you, my brave daughter. Thank you for being patient while I found my way. 3 days later, when Owen's ship was repaired and ready to leave, Rosie stood in the garden grotto with tears streaming down her face. The 3 white-scaled dragonlings pressed against her, equally heartbroken. I will come back, Rosie promised. Papa said we can visit. And you can send me messages. We will still be friends. Best friends, Myron corrected. Forever friends, Vex added. Saren wrapped her wings around the human child one last time. You saved us, she whispered. You gave us back our mother. Your mother saved you, Rosie said. She just needed to remember how. As the human ship lifted into the crimson sky, Thyra stood with her children and watched it go. Saren leaned against her side. Myron had his wing touching hers. Vex held her claw. "Will we really see her again?" Vex asked. "Yes," Thyra promised. "And until then we have each other. We have always had each other. I just forgot to see it." She looked down at her 3 beautiful, unique, perfect children. "Come, let us go inside. I want to hear more of your stories. I want to know everything about you. I have 3 months to make up for." As they walked back to the palace together, a true family at last, the stars shone down on scales of emerald and pearl, on strength found through vulnerability, and on love that conquered fear. Sometimes the smallest voices speak the greatest truths. Sometimes weakness teaches strength, and sometimes a mother needs to lose her way before she can find what truly matters. The Draconis Empire would never be the same. And that was exactly as it should be. The imperial courtyard buzzed with activity as delegations from across the galaxy gathered for the Empress's annual summit. Among the crowd, 3 young dragons moved with grace and confidence, their white scales gleaming like polished moonstone in the sunlight they had learned to tolerate. Saren, now a skilled diplomat, was negotiating trade agreements with visiting ambassadors. Myron's artwork hung in galleries across 12 systems, his unique perspective celebrated throughout the Empire. And little Vex, no longer so little, had become the Empire's most promising scholar, her quiet wisdom sought by leaders far and wide. Empress Thyra watched them with pride so fierce it made her chest ache. Her children had not just survived, they had thrived, and they had changed the Empire forever. "Your Majesty," an aide approached. "The human vessel is requesting landing clearance." Thyra smiled. "Granted immediately, and prepare the guest chambers. Our family is coming home." Within the hour, a familiar ship touched down in the eastern bay. Rosie emerged, now 12 years old and already following in her father's footsteps as an engineer. She barely made it 3 steps before 3 white dragons tackled her in an embrace that sent all 4 of them tumbling across the landing pad, laughing. Owen stood beside Thyra, watching the reunion. "You've done well," he said quietly. "They're remarkable." "They always were," Thyra replied. "I just needed someone to help me see it." "Thank you, Owen. Thank you for your daughter's courage and your wisdom. You saved my family." "Your family saved themselves," Owen said. "We just helped you remember what family means." As the sun set over the palace, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, 2 families shared a meal in the gardens. Human and dragon, different yet the same, bound by love that transcended species and prejudice. Thyra looked around the table at the faces she cherished most, her children healthy and happy, her friends loyal and true. This was her legacy, not genetic perfection or military might, but compassion, acceptance, and the courage to choose love over fear. "To family," Rosie said, raising her glass. "To family," everyone echoed. And under the stars of 1,000 worlds, in a garden where miracles had once bloomed, that truth resonated eternal. The strongest bonds are not forged by blood or perfection, but by hearts brave enough to love without condition. The end.